Candles lighting up a dark sky as friends and family of Aubreigh Wyatt came together to remember the teen by listening to some of her favorite songs.
Aubreigh, you're obsessed.
No, stop, don't do that.
Aubreigh. It's like an elevator ride. Why are you playing with my lights?
She was somebody that you could go to anytime that, you were upset. And she would always console you.
Please don't be okay. Please don't. No. Oh my God.
As a friendly person who was always happy, she says when the family heard the news of her passing, they were in shock. Skinner says, like many parents, she is teaching her kids on how to handle a bully, but also worries.
She was only 13 when she took her last breath. A bright, loving girl with dreams and a heart bigger than most adults you'll meet is gone. But what followed her death wasn't just grief. It was something that left the world speechless. A lawsuit. Not against the bullies, but against her mother. And a disturbing image? A doll eerily mocked to look like her, hanging by a noose. You're about to hear the story that shattered a town and set off a nationwide outcry. Before the bullying, before the tragedy, there was just Aubreigh, born in 2010 in Ocean Springs, Mississippi. To those who knew her, she wasn't just another student. She was a straight achiever, the kind who made teachers proud and siblings feel safe. Her mom, Heather Wyatt, raised her as a single parent. And despite life's challenges, Aubreigh's world was full of warmth, laughter, and love from her siblings, Taylor and Parker. But all of that would be torn apart. And just when you think it couldn't get worse, the bullies' families turned around and sued Heather after Aubreigh died. That's right. Instead of holding their children accountable, they blamed the grieving mother. Imagine being forced to remove your social media, silenced by the very people who allowed the torment to continue. And then there's the photo, a grotesque image of a doll hung by a string, dressed to mock Aubreigh after her death. It leaked online. People were horrified. Many believed it was connected to the very bullies who had made her life unbearable. But this was only the beginning. What led up to Aubreigh's death is even more disturbing, and it all started long before that lawsuit. By the time Aubreigh reached 7th grade, the bullying wasn't just hurtful, it was unbearable. What began in 5th grade with name-calling and whispering in the halls turned into something far darker. People she once called friends suddenly became cruel strangers.
When Aubreigh was in 7th grade, at the end of 7th grade, she was essayed by a student on school grounds. And yes, I emailed, yes, I filed a report, yes, I did all the things. And the audacity of an assistant principal to call my child in after I told him not to question my child who had just been violated and have to answer to a man. He did it anyway. Whole different story. Anyway, so we were ready to move forward, and then at some point my child was so intimidated, and he essentially told us that we were going to have to go in front of the whole school board. Aubreigh was going to have to retell her story tons and tons and tons of time. Mind you, this is a 12-year-old, and she was so intimidated and scared she begged me to stop because she was so being bullied at school now, because people had things up that were like Team Aubreigh, Team this, like who do you believe? It was absolutely disgusting.
The tipping point? A boy Aubreigh used to trust, someone she once shared laughs with, sexually assaulted her at a school baseball game. What followed wasn't protection or justice. It was humiliating. The school didn't step in to help. Instead, they forced Aubreigh to relive that nightmare again and again, making her recount the assault multiple times to different staff members. Each time, her voice cracked a little more. And rather than support her, the student body turned against her. They took the boy's side. They mocked her, spread vile rumors, harassed her like she was the one at fault. It was a brutal betrayal, not just by her peers, but by an entire system.
First day of 8th grade, and mind you, wait, and I got the emails back. This I let that man, principal, know that that other child cannot be anywhere near my child. No lunch, no class, no recess, nothing. Her first day of 8th grade, she walks in. Who's in her class? Him. She's so hysterical. She runs to the bathroom, distraught, calls me hysterical, having a panic attack. I immediately get off the phone with her and I call the school. I'm at work. Call the school, irate, flipping out. I'm like, go get my child out the bathroom who's having a panic attack, but also like fix this. Like, how do you mess this up?
As she moved into 8th grade, Heather did everything a mother could. She pleaded with the school, keep that boy away from my daughter. But those warnings were ignored. On the first day of school, Aubreigh walked into her new classroom, and there he was, sitting there like nothing had happened. The sight of him sent her into a spiral. She had a panic attack, running from the room and locking herself in the bathroom. Alone, shaking, terrified. And what did the school do? Nothing. It was a clear failure, one that left lasting damage. Aubreigh wasn't just bullied by classmates. She was failed by adults who should have known better. But even after all that, things were still about to get worse. On the night of September 4th, 2023, Aubreigh Wyatt walked into her bedroom and never came back out. She took her own life, alone, in the very place where she should have felt safe. Her mother, Heather, later shared the most haunting moment of her life in a TikTok that shook the internet. She spoke through tears, recalling the moment she opened Aubreigh's door, found her unresponsive, and desperately tried CPR while waiting for help to arrive. The raw pain in her voice made it clear this wasn't just another story. This was a mother living every parent's worst nightmare. The school held a memorial. There were flowers, candles, and soft words of remembrance. But there were no consequences. The bullies, they walked the halls like nothing happened, as if Aubreigh's death was just a footnote. But Heather wasn't ready to turn her grief into rage. At first, she didn't name names. She focused on something bigger, raising awareness about mental health and sharing her daughter's story to help others. While cleaning out Aubreigh's room, she found something that stopped her in her tracks. 3 sealed letters. They were tucked away, written by Aubreigh herself before she died. Heather recorded herself opening them a video that would go viral. In it, her hands tremble as she reads her daughter's final words.
Please, no. No. Oh my God!
The video was shared thousands of times. People across the world commented that it saved them. Some even said it pulled them back from the edge. But what shattered the silence came next. Aubreigh's sister Taylor and some of her close friends decided to speak out. They released actual texts and Snapchat messages that exposed the bullies by name. These weren't just mean jokes or harmless teasing. The messages revealed constant harassment, vicious name-calling, exclusion, and even physical violence. One of the girls, Molly Noblet, had slapped Aubreigh in front of others. The others, Parker Green, Ava Case, and Peyton Hembry saw her, all had a role. Screenshots showed them mocking her, isolating her, and making sure she never felt like she belonged. Now the truth was out, and people were furious. Just when the community thought it couldn't get any worse, a new Snapchat video surfaced, and it was sickening. It showed a doll hanging from a noose, swinging back and forth. To many, it was unmistakably meant to mock Aubreigh's suicide. The video spread fast, and people were outraged. Who would do something so cruel? All eyes turned once again to the bullies, and especially to Molly Noblet, the alleged ringleader. But this time, another name entered the spotlight. Dr. Monty Noblet, Molly's father and the assistant superintendent of the district. People began to whisper what some had suspected all along. A cover-up. There were rumors that Dr. Noblet was using his position to protect his daughter and silence any serious investigation. When a petition demanding his removal started gaining traction online, it suddenly vanished without explanation. Just like that, gone. It only added fuel to the fire. But instead of accountability, something even more shocking happened. The families of the alleged bullies, the very people exposed in the messages and videos, filed a lawsuit against Heather. They accused her of making false accusations, claiming their children were being unfairly targeted. And in a gut punch to Heather's advocacy, the court issued a gag order. She was forced to take down her social media, including the TikToks, where she had bravely shared her daughter's story. The same posts that had comforted thousands. The same videos that had sparked a movement. Now, the mother who had already lost her daughter was being silenced, not just by grief, but by a system that seemed more focused on shielding reputations than protecting truth. But Heather's fight was far from over. The silence didn't last long. As soon as news of the lawsuit and Heather's gag order hit social media, the internet exploded. The hashtag #Justice for Aubreigh went viral, with thousands demanding answers, and, most of all, demanding that Heather get her voice back. People from all over the country were outraged. They couldn't believe the bullies' families were suing the mother of a child who had taken her own life. And then came the support. A GoFundMe campaign was launched to help Heather with her legal defense. Within days, it shattered its goal, raising over $100,000. It wasn't just about money. It was a message. The public was standing behind her, and they weren't going to let her be silenced. Finally, on July 18th, 2024, that support made a real difference. Judge Mark Maples reviewed the case, and he made a bold decision. He lifted the gag order, allowing Heather to speak again. Her social media accounts were restored. And just like that, the voice they tried to shut down was back louder than ever. Outside the courthouse, crowds gathered and cheered. Some held signs. Others just stood in tears. Heather stepped out, visibly emotional, and thanked everyone. She said, "When I couldn't speak for my daughter, you became her voice. You kept her name alive. And now, I can speak again." It wasn't just a legal win. It was personal. It was the moment Heather reclaimed her power, not just for herself, but for Aubreigh.
I am so thankful. My heart, there's no amount of words, there's no amount of anything that I can genuinely do to express my gratitude to all of you. When my voice was shut off, the fact that you guys were like, no, we will be her voice, put me aside. You guys fought for my baby when I couldn't, and I just have no... You're our people, you're our family, you're our village, and I'm forever grateful for you guys.
And in doing so, she gave hope to countless other parents, kids, and survivors. But even with the victory, the road ahead was still filled with challenges. If Aubreigh's story moved you, don't let it fade. Share her name. Speak out against bullying, and support those fighting for justice. Heather's voice was nearly silenced, but yours can make a difference. Subscribe for more real stories that matter, and never stop being the voice for someone who can't speak.